Hello there, what's up? Welcome to week 4, lesson 1. Let's go ahead and look at some poetic terms so that we get started. Let's go for it. So, what we're going to do today is just look at tone, diction, imagery, but also we're going to focus it in poetry. We did some diction and connotation last week, but let's go ahead and move it towards poetry. We did short stories before, now we're doing poems. Let's get at it. So, tone of voice is basically similar to writing, the attitude of the speaker or the narrator of the poem. So when we think about this, we all have an emotion based around it, right? We're happy, sad, upset, determined, perturbed, irritated, bored, tired. Those last two I've heard a lot for the past 3 weeks. But let's go ahead and look at tone rather, in terms of in poetry. So if we have a voice and we know our tone of voice, I can talk to my dog and be like, "Who's a good boy?" or "Who's a good boy?" They're the same words, the same diction. However, they have a different tone. Hopefully you know which one is more pleasant than the other. But it just tells your attitude or your emotion. Same thing with the tone of a poem. We're looking at the subject. Nearly everything has a tone. Think of art, think of music, politics, there's always going to be a tone. Think of a film. Literally anything. Grocery outlet feels different than walking in Whole Foods. If you have that. Or Fred Meyer feels different than going to Safeway. Buying a Prius off the lot feels a lot different than paying cash for someone's, used, beat-up truck. Same thing with poetry. The tone makes it feel different. It makes a difference on how to read the nuance of the poem. So again, we're just looking, when you're thinking of tone, it kind of builds up the setting. Setting is a place, but tone is the attitude of the emotion based around that setting and characters. Video, I'm not going to watch it. There's copyrighted music, but you can watch this ahead and just look at how Stranger Things has set a tone of an eerie, creepy, different thriller of a show. And when you're looking at tone of a poem, the more specific you are, the better it is. And if you look at like this word wheel, the more central you are, the more vague. So we have fear, anger, disgust, sad, happy, and surprise. But the further you go out, the more specific you are. So if you are using fear, you could be anxious, insecure, scared, submissive, rejected, humiliated. And if you want to go even further out from there, ridiculed, disrespected, alienated, inadequate, insignificant, worthless, inferior. Inadequate is, again, twice. Worried, overwhelmed, frightened, terrified, shocked, dismayed, disillusioned. And we can continue going onward. So if you're ever looking at this word wheel, use it all the time. It helps you not only explain the story better, but also helps explain and express yourself better as well. The more specific you are, the better. If I'm doing okay, it's not the same as saying I'm perturbed, irritated, disgusted. So just look at that, because if I say okay, you don't know what's going on. Okay is not a good word to use, unless you're just feeling okay. So diction is looking at the actual, specific word choice. So diction, think of like a definition, the literal meaning, etc. We learned about this yesterday. So diction is word choice. Denotation, we learned last week, is the dictionary definition of the word. And if we look at connotation, we also talked about this last week. We're looking at the tone or the attitude, the meaning behind connotation. So I can say I'm fantastic, or if someone asks how am I doing, I'm like, fantastic. If I'm using sarcasm, the tone or the attitude is different than me actually feeling fantastic. So that's what we're going to look at for connotation. And let's just think of a way to think of diction. Not everybody chooses their words carefully, but a poet, that's their MO, their main objective. And since there are so many words that have the same denotation, so angry and mad have similar denotations, but their tone or the diction could be different in how you use it. So we have to use like, how is it being used? So we're choosing the word that has the best tone that you are going for. Poet calls a girl in the poem skinny instead of fit or athletic. It's because they know the connotation or the association of those words, and they choose that goes with the purpose of the poem. And kind of like how when you're mad at someone, you might call them controlling or type A, but when you're on good terms, you could say that they're organized, motivated, or determined. And it just depends on what your tone is or the emotion behind it. So let's use an exercise. So let's just think of this. What's a word that you could use to describe a trip to the beach on a cloudy day when you are grumpy and cold? I'm waiting. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot this is not a real conversation. But let's say, let's just have some ideas. If I'm cold and grumpy, I could say I'm irritated. I am upset. Depressed, maybe. Unmotivated, etc. The words can go on. Cold, say I'm freezing, I'm shivering, I'm chilly. But we could change those words to help describe. Versus, if I'm saying that there's a good trip to the beach and it's sunny and I feel good, say happy, excited, ecstatic, jubilant. The list can go on. But that's just one idea of diction. But let's look at imagery. So that is any language that describes the five senses. We're not talking about sixth sense here. I don't have ESP. Maybe you do, but we'll just focus on the five. So that is going to be see. You are seeing me right now. Smell. Hopefully you're not smelling me right now. Hear. You're hearing my words. Taste. What does it taste like? Touch. See, smell, taste, touch. And hear. Five things. See, smell, taste, touch, hear. Five senses that describes most of what we can describe for our emotions. And that's what we're looking for imagery. So you can use images. You can use images the way that you use diction. Think about it. If you're writing about a cheeseburger and you describe the stale bun, rancid cheese, and overcooked beef, they're all censoring. It creates an unsavory tone, just like your word choice does. On the other hand, describing them as a moist piece of carrot cake with thick cream cheese frosting that sticks to the roof of your mouth and creates a delicious image. It all depends on how you use imagery to match the tone of what you're saying. So, imagery. What does a nice 85-degree day on the beach feels like? Warm. I can smell the salt in the air. I see waves crashing, birds flying. I hear the ocean crashing. The list goes on. We know. I'm sorry, it's Tillamook. Ocean's right there. My examples are going to be pretty limited. So let's use an exercise of diction in terms of imagery. So let's think of sensory language that you would use to describe your Halloween night, if it's your favorite holiday, or would you use it if it was not your favorite holiday. You felt that it was a little bit too corporate, a little bit too capitalistic, maybe. Maybe it's just a trend and you're anti-conformist. I don't know. I think it's great. So if you look at Halloween, maybe you're thinking of, a nice, crisp, cool night. The leaves are drying. There is mystique in the air, and you don't know what's going on. Just think of some ideas that you would use for Halloween that you enjoy versus if you don't like it. Halloween, if you don't enjoy it, maybe it's wet, maybe it's damp, maybe it's humid, but it's still cold, so that would make fog. So maybe it's foggy. Maybe it's too loud. Maybe you don't like having and hearing kids screaming 11:30 at night. Maybe you don't want to smell rotting pumpkins that are smashed in front of your house. Maybe you don't want to hear the popping of tires that are slashed. That happened to me once and it wasn't my car. I wasn't driving that time, but it was terrible for the people in the street. And here are just some good examples in poetry that use tone, diction, and imagery. And make sure you look at words and images that the poet uses to create the tone. These are all inside your story. So if you're looking at this, I'm not going to read this. I'm going to have another video attached beneath it to look at some ideas of tone, diction, and imagery as well. But these are the ones that you could look at for that. And that's the first part for Week 4, Lesson 1. Good luck. Syncing audio for Part 2 of Week 4, Lesson 1. So, as always, we have some literary terms to go over for notes, and then we go straight into vocab for Week 4, Lesson 1, and for any Lesson 1 of any week. So if you remember, ever since Week 2, we've been having 5 vocabulary words every week. So, since we're in Week 4, we're going to have 15. Sorry, actually, we're going to have 14, because even though it says that there's going to be 5 words, there's only going to be 4 for today. So, these words are possibly on the vocabulary/literary devices quiz that is going to happen this week. They might not be on it, but 14 vocabulary words are going to be on the quiz, so it's to your advantage to study these and make sure that you know what these terms mean and how to use them in a sentence as well as possible. The words for this week: obscene, evasive, haughty, and conservative. Didn't even have to look at the screen for that one. So, let's go ahead and look at obscene. Ooh, man, do I use this a lot. In language especially. So, obscene is an adjective, and it means offensive or disgusting. So, let's use that in a sentence. The news channel had to bleep out the obscene language of the witness to broadcast on live television. So, often if we hear obscene language, that means someone is swearing. So, it's offensive or disgusting. I don't use that language when I'm in the classroom. But I think most of us use our vocabulary from time to time. But it just means, it's not polite language, and that's why it's offensive or disgusting. If someone throws an obscene gesture up in the air, that's usually one finger standing up when others are standing down, and it's an offensive term to another person. That's what obscene is. So we're going to look at evade. Do we have evade? No, we'll find out now. So evade is a verb, which is to escape or avoid. And usually if someone's being clever or using trickery. So, another question, or another sentence rather. She evaded doing her chores by claiming she had homework to do. I'm certain that no one has ever had to do this before, or used it before. But evade is to escape or avoid, and use it as a verb. So, in the picture there, the gentleman evaded from the police. I was thinking of maybe like Shawshank Redemption, when you had our main character escape prison, and he was wrongly accused. Haughty is an adjective, which means arrogantly superior, proud, snobbish, acting too good for something. Again, something that I've done before. And sentence is, he haughtily announced that cleaning out the lunchroom fridge was below his pay grade. So haughty, maybe uppity, bougie perhaps. And I've had that before. I had a job that I had to clean the restrooms before. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't get paid enough for this. I've done it in the past, but it was particularly messy at that time. So people might say that I was being a little bit haughty at that point. And I think they kind of would be right, because it was a job that was in my job description to do. Conservative is also an adjective, which means it's purposefully low for the sake of caution. So we're not thinking of it politically speaking. We're using it in other terms. So, in a sentence would be, since the drought started, they have been conservative with their water use by taking shorter showers. So, you are being cautious and you're using as little as possible. So, if you are conservatively dressed, you are making sure that people aren't going to be potentially looking at you. So, if I had Liberty spikes and a mohawk, that would not be dressing conservatively. This paisley shirt, I would say, is not very conservative. Maybe if I had an all-white or a grayish-blue shirt, that would be more conservative. But screen's green, and usually I like blue, and this has blue in it. So let's get going. Practice quiz is on your own volition, and you could probably make a Quizlet if you want to. But that's it for the vocab for this week. Good luck with week 1. Good luck with week 4, lesson 1.